Hi, folks, and welcome back to another Travels of Red Rover. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Corinne.
And where are we today?
We are at the Petrified Forest National Park near Holbrook, Arizona.
And it is the beginning of April.
And it's cold.
And man, is it cold and windy. In fact, they're even suggesting we might get a snowstorm today. So we're going to try to do the dinosaur park and the painted desert and the petrified trees before we get snowed on.
And before it gets too windy. So we're here at opening. Just to be aware, this park is only open limited hours. Most of the time it's 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. And they do not observe daylight savings times in Arizona. So that is the case here at this park.
So let's get started.
We're starting our travels through the park at the south end. There's a road that goes from the south by a gift shop called the Crystal Forest into the park, and then it goes on a northeast angle towards Highway 40. So we're going to travel northeast, and we're starting at the Rainbow Forest Museum here in the park. We've done our required stop at the Visitor Center. Always good to check for interesting postcards and displays about the dinosaurs and how the logs were made.
Very, very well done in there, too. It's really worth spending a little time.
Get there early and you can get more information from the park rangers. We're going to head out on the Giant Logs Trail, which is right behind the Visitor Center.
That's a very short trail, about 0.4 of a mile, a little less than half a mile, so it should be quite enjoyable.
And you can get a park guide for this, or if you download the park app, the MPS app, you can download the self-guided tour on your smartphone. Looking at the desert here, you might wonder, how did we get such great big trees in this part of the world? Originally, Arizona was very close to the equator before the tectonic shifting of the plates of the earth. So it was a much more tropical climate. The trees grew, were undercut by rivers. So then the trees fell over and went into the rivers, and eventually sediment covered them over, created an anaerobic environment so that they didn't decay. And then over time, minerals got into the phloem and phylum systems of the trees and solidified to make the logs that we see today. In some locations, they have one large, long log that's been split up over time as it decayed and broke up. But it's really interesting to see how long these get.
So Corinne and I have walked out to the overlook area on the same trail, and it adds a little distance, but it also gives you a great view of the bentonite hills that are over there. These were all actually formed as the bottom of rivers, and they're essentially sediment layers piling up one layer after another on these areas. So so we're trying the second trail of the day.
Yeah, we're going to do the trail to the Long Logs and to the Egot House. It's not very far from our South Visitor Center and the gift shop there. It's a trail of about a mile, and it's got an asphalt trail, so it's going to be real easy.
And actually, to find it, just come across the bridge, and it's on your right-hand side.
As you walk along this trail to the Agate House in the area known as Long Logs, you can get a sense of perhaps how large this forest was, with all the scattered petrified logs that are along the trail. Some large, some small, all really colorful. So we're approaching the Agate House, which is a structure that's made up of petrified wood. We'll get a closer look in a minute, but you can see that it's been built up on a promontory hill, and from the top of the hill we'll take a look down and check out the view that they had. Here's a view from the eastern side of Agate House. This was a reconstruction using the original materials. They've determined it was probably 8 rooms in size and may have been a meeting house as well as a home for one family. They do believe that some of the reconstruction aspects are not quite accurate. For example, this wall shows a window, and they probably didn't have windows. Up at the top you can see the remains of a ladder, and they believe the entry to the homes and buildings would have been from the ceiling down the ladders. Here's a close-up view of some of the petrified wood used in the construction, filled in with a mortar made of sand and small pebbles. And you can see how the petrified wood shape was very ideal for using as building blocks.
So when you pick these rocks up, you think you're picking up a piece of wood because it really looks like a piece of wood. But you sure know when you pick it up how heavy it is, that it's not a piece of wood, that you're picking up a solid rock. And the rock is actually made from silicates, basically infiltrating in through the various phylum and phloem of the wood and forming into a rock. And these beautiful colors you see are actually the result of various metals that come into the rock. For example, the redder colors, red and brown colors, are like from iron oxides and probably some manganese oxides. And the other thing, too, if you look really careful, they will shimmer in the light, and they're really quite pretty. Even a fairly dull rock looks quite pretty.
If you do the Agate House trail, it's out and back, but there is a little small loop trail you could add that's called the Long Log Trail, and it's about a half-mile loop. So it adds to the total length of the trail, Agate House and Long Logs, of about 1.5 miles. And we're going to go out and see some of these examples of long logs. Here's one of the examples along the trail of a long log. This one looks to be probably about, 40, 35 feet long. Some of it's still buried in the ground. In the background here, you can make out some hills that are very similar to the Badlands of South Dakota. These are bentonite hills, and the various minerals adjust the colors. Red and purple and white are often seen. They erode quite easily because they're more of a mud-sand mixture rather than a solid rock. Here's a closer view of these bentonite hills. We're walking past them along the trail, and you can see some of the color variations and also the erosion that's occurring. Right in front, there's a nice long log that's stretched out in front. This one's really long.
After we finished our walk, we started our drive through the park. One word of advice, make sure you've used the bathrooms at the visitor center in the south end. There's only really one other set before you get to the north end of the park, and that one was very, very busy. The road is pretty rough in places, so take your time and enjoy the drive. The day we were there, we had lots of white puffy clouds in the sky, and it was an extraordinarily enjoyable drive.
We're doing a stop at a spot along the route, about halfway along, called the Agate Bridge. And this is a location where a petrified log spans a gully. And they originally, in the early 1900s, did some work to support the log so that it wouldn't fall down into the gully. Now they have a different philosophy about the natural environment, and they are going to let the bridge crumble away naturally as it would if there were no man intervention. Here's the Agate Bridge, and you can see a cement cross beam that's supporting it now, and they're just planning to let it erode naturally. The Blue Mesa Scenic Loop is an offshoot from the main park road, and you can go through this and see the various layers of rocks that were formed over time. This is a really good example of the geology of the area, and makes an interesting spot to stop. And there's a couple hiking trails you can explore out here as well.
The Blue Mesa is an absolutely beautiful spot. The road takes you up onto the top of the mesa and gives you 360-degree views of the area, and it's extraordinarily pretty. In fact, we thought it was so pretty, we decided to stay for a little while and have our lunch up here. Highly recommend that you plan to spend some time up here. Also, potentially do the walk that goes down into the valleys below the mesa.
Well, one interesting fact about the Petrified Forest National Park is it is the only national park that has a preserved portion of the historic Route 66 in it. And we'll show you an artifact from Route 66. This is a 1932 Studebaker. I don't know anything about its story, how it came to be here, why it remains here, but it's an interesting artifact to find in a national park.
Our next stop was the Painted Desert Inn. This building has been rehabbed several times and is really quite attractive. The old soda stand was put in the early 50s and has been rehabbed several times, but has been returned to its former glory, and it looks pretty much like it did back in the 50s. And if you want your ice cream today, that's found downstairs.
This mural in the Painted Inn depicts traveling from Arizona up to the Great Salt Lake and back again.
After you pass the Painted Inn, there are several stops along the way that really can give you an excellent feel for the amount of layering and sediments in these bentonite hills. Absolutely gorgeous and are worth the stop.
We started our day with cold, windy, gray conditions, and now we're having a good front of clouds coming in. It looks like it's going to start raining soon, so we may not be able to do quite as much outdoor strolling.
Well, Corinne, what did you think of the something or
Petrified
another Forest Park?
It was a really good park. I would highly recommend downloading the NPS National Park Service app and doing the audio tour as you drive the route.
Yeah, that was great.
Really interesting. And our drive with a couple hikes along the way started at about 8:30 and concluded about 2. So you should maybe allow yourself 5 hours as a good guideline.
Well, we sure hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up.
And if you'd like to see more of our videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We really appreciate it. And
well, if you're down there, hit that bell button.
Yeah, to be notified when new videos get posted. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas you want to share with us, we sure hope you'll put it in the comment section down below. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you enjoyed this and you know of others that might enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to share it. And until next time, bye for now.
Bye for now.